it's kind of a breakdown of how we do things on Monster
Mm-hmm.
Monday and explaining how we approach that, as well as modifying monsters themselves. Mind you, we have done a video on modifying monsters themselves, but this is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
You explain.
Rethinking monsters and making old foes new feel new. Ah, yes. Let's try the old classic. It's a it's we're using the troll stat block, but we're describing it as something else different.
Oh, that is a fun way of doing it. Modifying the look of something can make things very interesting when going against your players.
Yeah, it's a great way of also defeating meta gamers if you don't use the name of the monster itself like a troll and simply call it a wild man
Yeah.
or a hillbilly uh, or you call it
Large mountainous traveler.
yeah, or you can go ahead and say the Green Man or something like that. If you're going just different naming conventions for the creature so that the player doesn't immediately know that it is indeed a troll, that is a doable option in itself. But then you could also do the option like John likes to do every so often.
Where I just completely modify the monster itself, giving it new abilities, changing it so that it is interesting and unique compared to how it normally is when they fight it, right? So you've got, let's take an example. We recently did a video on Monster Monday on the topic of rats, or depending on upload times, maybe we didn't yet and we're about to. So with the Monster Monday on rats, you took normally my approach. You made things much more interesting compared to how they normally come by giving them different abilities. Maybe they're plagued rats, maybe the rats are firing off a variety of elemental attacks like lightning, fire, ice, water, so on and so forth, right?
They might have other they have absorbed certain spells into themselves and have that effect of that spell.
So you can modify things that are old or not very interesting in their current dynamic or way they're created, and you can then turn them into something new or use them for a new strategy, like the 10 kobolds that are now 10 kobolds that are wielding spears with sentinel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could give them an additional ability which makes a new dynamic to the fight and how things function comparatively to how they generally are, right?
Yep. So we just covered the old strategy of the first one was just rename the monster something else and don't and describe it but slightly different so the players don't immediately think, hey, that's a goblin or a troll. So they don't immediately go to the solution.
I'm gonna hit you with number 3, by the way, after you define number 2.
And then number 2 is you tack on extra effects to them, like a spell or an element or something else like that.
Yep.
And then number 3 is
Number 3. No, wait, I got number 3. Number 3 is you take it and you put it into a new environment.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going? Good. That's all right.
Number 3 was actually you give it new weapons and new.
Oh no! That's a follow up on number 2.
That's I was thinking it was like a mid ground between number.
I suppose
one
it kind
and
of
number
is.
2. But anyways,
I was putting number 3.
You put new armaments on the monster. Then you have like number 4, which is you stick it in a different environment that is not its typical thing, and then
You could create a much more interesting encounter.
add parts to the creature. You might add parts to the creature as well.
Number 4, you take the creature and you put it in a different environment. You could take that
The elemental.
earth. You could take that. I want to think of a fun thing like you take a furball or something, some mountainous creature, and you put it in the middle of a lake and it's struggling. and the players are walking up on whatever this thing is, failing to swim and needing assistance, that is arguably an enemy or a potential dangerous thing, and it creates this whole new dynamic to what they're going into. So you can take something old and make it completely fresh.
Yeah. So the last
Lava
one is
bandits.
basically moving the creature that typically lives in forests into lakes or deserts or something else where the players would not
Taking
expect
the
it to
yuan
be.
tea and putting them into the Under the Dark.
Yeah. So there's that. So you can rename stuff. You can stick elements on it. You can change its gear loadout and stuff like that. You can add body parts and features to them. You can move them into different environments that you normally would not even think that creature would be in, and to throw off your players.
You could also then, with these adjustments that you're making, you could, with them in new places, you could even add layer actions.
Mm-hmm. You can also go with another option of like combining various elements of the other ones together to get a new combination out of it.
So
like you stick an element on it, change its
the
armor, or not call it a Githyanki.
I've kind of explained this idea before. Yeah. The idea of basically you've got your stat block, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have additional blocks like adjusting that what it looks like. Another block is going and adjusting its abilities or things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The stat block is just another one of these building blocks that you as the DM can go and use to create an interesting encounter or interesting event for your players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all building blocks in their own way, and as a DM, it's more fun to put more blocks together. You got your one stat block, but then when you stick something on top of it, now you're building with multiple blocks and you're making something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make all kinds of different shapes depending on what blocks you use and how you align them together.
Yep.
That's a good analogy.
You turn your monsters into Legos.
Yes.
And you actually take them apart as well. That's another option where you can essentially do a manticore / chimera where you remove heads, you add different heads to it. You can add more heads to it. You can add different types of legs, giving it different characteristics.
Or
remove the stinger tail and add a snake tail to it.
Or you might have your X-Men set of Legos over here, and you could then instead take a piece from your Star Wars set of Legos and start using them together, and now you've got a real interesting set of blocks going.
Wolverine with lightsaber claws.
Yes. I was more using the analogy of creatures that don't normally fit a certain terrain fighting with others that don't normally fit that terrain as like followers. You could create really interesting dynamics.
A dog with Storm's superpowers.
No.
Controls the weather, can fly. He can summon forth blizzards.
Yeah, I suppose.
Incidentally, by the way, Storm is my favorite X-Men.
Fair enough. Sorry, I was using them as a metaphor too. All right. Anyway,
but you can also do that too. You can use them as metaphors.
Yes. All right. So, I think we're.
You can also give creatures languages.
That is an interesting
That's something my
thing
brother John likes to do a lot. He'll have talking dogs and pigs and stuff like that.
He does do that,
and he'll give chimp. He gave monkey a crossbow to fight the party. Furious George was one heck of a fight.
Oh yeah. All right. So the topic of actually editing monsters, though, do you do with everything?
I oftentimes will use the normal monster in various situations, and then as the campaigns and adventures go along, I will modify and show up with new versions of that monster.
Okay.
So it's sort of like old-fashioned video gaming logic, like from the 1980s, 1990s, where you're playing an RPG along, and then there's this blue slime. Oh, that's a smack it a few times, and then all of a sudden you come across this green slime, and now you hit it and it hurts you with acid, or you find this mercury slime or this metal slime that's really hard. It takes a lot of damage to take it out.
So you start small, you don't really use it, and as the campaign progresses, then you'll start to edit things in.
I give owlbears armor, and then I make them bigger and meaner, and then at some point they might spit fire at the players. They might fly. They might have goblins that ride them into combat. I think that was the point where the party wanted to nope away from that situation when the goblins started riding owlbears in full armor.
Yeah. All right. But back to the core topic. So
that's another thing you can do. You can take one monster and mount another monster on top of it.
Oh, you absolutely can. Yeah.
Like your ogre that had all the goblins riding around on it.
Oh, absolutely, with a big old cage and housing on its back.
And then you swap in some items like some explosives with the goblins or fire bows or stuff like that, and then you get a new interesting situation. You might have a dragon that is controlled by another creature, and has a bunch of goblins on its back on a rail that throw projectiles at you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the party.
Another interesting way of using goblins. Yeah, I totally ran goblins up inside of an ogre. They were working for it. Yeah, there's some really cool things you can do just by meshing together a bunch of different things. You could also then steal from media if you wanted to.
You could also stick going with the goblin and mounting them on other things. The fact that you might put two or more different types of monsters together. This is old hat in gaming, but sometimes you'd be surprised by how many times dungeon masters in this day and age don't do this, where they actually mix and match different types of monsters in different situations.
Yeah.
And you end up with different dynamics, like having different types of mephits. And then you might have a different type of elemental, or you might have goblins with mephits, or you might have
it might have for more interesting.
You might have kobolds that are using items to control mephits, or goblins using items to control various insect monsters, or something else like that. That's why
make things that don't normally work together start working together. Yeah, I agree. It's a good method of how to combine things.
Just like goblins and using the bag of rats with the goblins.
Yes. And now you've added rats into the combat.
Yeah.
A number of them. Or a rat swarm, depending how you want to run things.
You can also make things into swarms, too.
What is, in your mind, going too far when it comes to adjusting a monster?
What is going too far? There isn't really a going too far.
It's kind of a going too far for the current party.
Yeah, it's really a going too far for the current party's kind of situation. You can't really send a Hydra dragon in hybrid at the party at level 2.
Yeah.
And that Hydra dragon also is wearing body armor and has swords attached to its hands.
At a certain point, it does a adjustment that you've made hit a point where it's gone too absurd. That like maybe your players are going to feel a sense of abstracted from the world, right? Or a disconnect with the game.
I'm the wrong person to ask this question to. I have not found that point. And the person who most likely would have found that point is my brother, John. I think we should have got him in on an addendum to this video.
Yeah.
Or if you have an opportunity after this video's recording, maybe you can drag him in here and addendum onto the back end of this video and splice that section onto the back end of this one and have him give that, because he does so much crazy shit with his characters and monsters. If there's any,
I'm seeing a couple players start to tap out from his campaigns
if there's any person who has done combinations and modifications that are so crazy that the players start becoming confused and agitated by the insanity of the blending and complexity of the situation and monsters, it would be my brother.
Yeah.
He literally had a campaign revolving around a wizard pig.
Yep.
In a tower. Yeah. And a vampire sheep?
I believe so.
Yeah.
All right. Monsters. Adjust them constantly.
Yeah. Start with the regulars.
To me,
and then modify them small.
They're building blocks.
And then keep adding different things to them over time.
Start using more blocks.
Yeah.
Use the colorful other blocks you don't normally use.
Also, sometimes forgot another modification. Change color.
True.
Give
them a shiny variant.
Yeah, make your trolls purple and sparkly.
Yeah, or just throw one like that in the group. Mm-hmm. It'll throw them off.
Also, there's a good addendum to that. Just change the color in that group of that one troll. Nothing else.
Yep.
That will fuck up the party.
Yep. We need to deal with that one now.
All right. We need to deal with that one now, or the party will literally stop and freaking freak out and ask questions like, "I know."
Yeah, but what's he doing?
I know those. I know those are green trolls. We can use fire on them. That's metagaming.
That troll's red though. That one in the group is red.
That one is red or purple or whatever color. Okay, there's something up with that. What if we use fire on it and it actually gets stronger, or it multiplies, or it does something else? I've literally
just adjust the color.
I've literally done this with Kuato and a few other monsters where I will dress them up. Like I will have Kuato and their standard clothing or robes or something like that with various colors, and then I'll stick one in a pink dress. And weirdly enough, in multiple different groups.
That's the healer. We gotta focus them.
That is the first Kuato they attack. They're not attacking the boss. They're attacking the one that's in the pretty pink dress.
Yep. Alright, monsters. Modify often. Almost always. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Yep.
Have a wonderful evening.
And a fantastic morning.
A fantastic morning.
And a filling lunch.